Hey, this is Madalyn Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio. Today we do have a special guest with us. Jennifer Navarrete is joining us at ePodcaster, and she's joining us to talk about the very exciting day that it is today for NaPodPoMo. Jennifer's going to explain to us what that is, and it's the 16th year that she's been running it, so she is most definitely the person to speak to about it. Jennifer, welcome to the space. Thank you so much for giving us your time to come here today and talk to us about NaPodPoMo.
Happy NaPodPoMo Day 1, everyone. This is exciting. So my name is Jennifer Navarrete. I'm at ePodcaster here on Web 2 and Web 3. And one of the things that I love about November is that it's a month filled with challenges. We don't just have NaPodPoMo. We have NaBlowPoMo for bloggers. We have NaNoWriMo for writers, and Movember for men who want to focus on men's health, and all sorts of other challenges. And I think it's an exciting thing globally to participate in some sort of challenge, because you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with others. And the fun thing about a challenge like this at the end of the year is that no matter how crazy your year was, and maybe your January New Year's resolutions didn't come to pass, you still have another attempt to make something amazing happen. And I think a challenge is a great way to do it.
Absolutely, it certainly is. And my goodness, what a challenge. So the idea is that we basically post an episode of a podcast every day throughout November. Is that right, Jennifer?
So it is 30 podcast episodes during the month of November, the 30 days of November. How you do that is entirely up to you. Do you want to post daily? Great. Do you want to batch record and release in batches? Great. Do you want to show up on November 30th and do all 30 episodes on one day? That also works. We know that life happens. And so as I was continuing to develop this over the years, it didn't make sense to say that if you miss day 15, that's it, you're out. No, you have time to make up for it over the weekend, or you have time to catch up, or you can record things in advance and then release them daily. Just the goal is to get 30 podcast episodes during the month of November, the 30 days of November. And again, how you do that, entirely up to you.
Amazing. That's so good to hear as well, because today, as I say, is day one. This is the first year that I am taking part with my own podcast. So last year I was a guest on someone's podcast, Steph Fuccio, who's an amazing podcast editor and great supporter. And she was doing 30 interviews over the 30 days, wasn't she? And I was one of the guests on her show. And that was amazing. She was everywhere. She was on LinkedIn. She was live streaming it to YouTube. She was doing it as a podcast, and she learned so much, and she shared everything that she learned as well, which I think was just amazing. You know, so many people benefited from what she had learned through doing these 30 different episodes. And what I learned was that actually this sounded really exciting. And rather than just sitting back and watching everyone do it every year, I'd have a go. So of course, when it got to lunchtime today and I still hadn't managed to post my first episode, I was thinking I failed already. But no, I did manage to go live with my first episode before we went live today for All Things Audio. So yeah, it's quite exciting, but a little bit daunting, the whole idea of having these 30 episodes ahead of me. But yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, I'm guessing there's podcasts of all different sorts, Jennifer. Have you got kind of a sense of what people are doing?
Yeah, actually, because we have what I call the mega feed. As we went through the years, we would be subscribing to everyone's individual feeds, and it gets a little overwhelming. So I found an aggregation service that you can pull a bunch of individual feeds and make them into a single feed. And I call that the mega feed. And people are giving me their feeds. I'm adding it to the mega feed, and you subscribe to the one mega feed, and you're able to listen to everyone's shows. Now, there's a real beauty to this. One is just going to roll right after the other, and it's going to be totally random. You have no idea what order you're getting these episodes in and who you're going to hear from, because everyone's releasing their shows as they have time. We're a global challenge, so people are in all kinds of time zones. And so what's November 1 for, people on the other side of the world is still, November, it probably wasn't even November. We were getting episodes being released when it was still nighttime in my part of the world. So that's the really nice thing, that's constantly updating. And from what I've heard so far, we have some returning folks, Steph Fuccio being one of them. This is her 5th year. We also have Clay Groves, who does the Fish podcast, and he's been a long time NaPodPoMo podcaster, and he's back this year. And one year, all he did was fish jokes, and it was hilarious. I'm not quite sure what he's doing this year, but I know it will be something around fish. And then we have new podcasters that are trying something new. Greg Shaw's doing something on kindness. Shadows Pub, who I see down there. Last year was her first year. This is her second year. She started as a NaPodPoMo podcaster just really to support the efforts on Web3 on the Hive blockchain. And now she's actually increased. She does it all the time. She's now a regular podcaster because of NaPodPoMo and her own efforts to move it forward. And so she's doing this amalgamation of the word of the day, the generative AI that gets created from the word of the day, the story that talks about that generative AI and the word of the day, and now it's becoming a podcast for NaPodPoMo. So it it ranges and varies because we have people who are talking about healing. Have people who are talking about stories from when they were kids. People are talking about their favorite books. So really anything, and I think that's what's a lot of fun because you don't know what you're getting in any given year, but it's always something interesting. And I'll tell you a story from last year. I was just listening to the feed, and all of a sudden, someone who hadn't been podcasting at the beginning of NaPodPoMo jumped in the middle. So their day one or their first episode was like, I don't know, maybe around day 14 or day 15. And they were talking about grief. And they were talking about healing from grief and, the passing away, not just of people, but of times in our life, where things are no longer what they were and they're now something different. And I can tell you right now, that would not have been a podcast that I would have gone and searched for and subscribed to. But because it was inside of the NaPodPoMo feed and it just automatically popped up right after I'd listened to a previous episode, I sat there and I listened and I began to gain a new value and understanding about grief and loss, and not in a way to be sad, but in a way to be healing about it that I hadn't ever considered I ever even wanted to know. And so I'm so appreciative to Ingrid and her show, as well as, the fact that she decided to participate in NaPodPoMo, even though we were, almost halfway through the month. She thought, I want to do this. And she did that. From that point on, she did episodes for the rest of the month. And I learned a whole heck of a lot. So it's wide, it's varied, it's interesting, it's never boring.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And the fact that it is, really challenging people to have a go at podcasting and then that people have grown their shows out of it. I mean, you must be extremely proud, that you've sort of been the vehicle for this all to happen for people, really, because, by setting the challenge, people have joined in and they've really taken it to heart. And, podcasting is a commitment, right? It's a real big thing. So it's amazing that people have taken it and really kind of run with it. For the mega feed, Jennifer, how do people find that? Is that available if you were, say, on Spotify or wherever? Or is it in a certain place? How can we find the feed?
So I tell people that NaPodPoMo, whether you're a first-time podcaster trying it out and fumbling around, or whether you're a seasoned podcaster like many of us are, but fumbling around because we're trying something new. You mentioned Steph Fuccio last year, like being everywhere, because that was her experiment, was to do video and interviews and put it everywhere. And as you said, she learned a lot and she shared a lot of that information that she learned. But I tell folks that this is a safe community space because a lot of times when we're trying something new, we're grown-ups. We think, oh, we should have everything on lock and what will people think? So we don't submit the mega feed anywhere. It's just for us. Now, does that mean it can't be discoverable anywhere? I guess it could be, but I don't take an active role in saying, here, Apple Podcasts, here's this feed. I just want it to be for us, but anyone can subscribe to the mega feed. As a matter of fact, I will put it inside. I will tag Suze and Madalyn, and then they can put it up in the nest when they want. But it's just a simple, and it's raw, by the way, zero album art. It literally says NaPodPoMo 2023. It is like the low, nothing fancy, bare bones kind of generic. When you go to this grocery store and it says sugar on it, and this is what this feed is, but it serves the purpose, and the purpose is just to make it easy for everyone who's participating in the challenge or people who want to support others who are doing the challenge to listen to the cornucopia of audio that is coming out of this challenge. And to go back to what you said, Suze, about being proud, I'm often stunned and amazed because I've had people like, I shared this story before, but it still bears repeating. David Hooper wrote a book called The Big Podcast, and he has a podcast called The Big Podcast. And he walked up to me at the podcast movement a few years back, like 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. And he said, Jennifer, I wrote this book because of NaPodPoMo. And I kind of was stunned. And he thanked me. And I was like, wow, I mean, don't feel like I guess I created the space for it, but he did it. He took action. He went forward. It's kind of like Shadows and anyone else who continues, or these experiments that Steph does or any of us do. It's a space for you to allow your creativity and your curiosity to run rampant and to be amazed at the results or to go, well, that didn't work at all. At least now I know. but you have permission to muck about and stumble and figure and fail fast and get good. And I think that maybe is the secret sauce to NaPodPoMo, is really creating this space for us to allow ourselves to play and dream.
And what a space. What a space. I mean, mine's a very different podcast that I've submitted to the feed. So mine's a soundscape podcast. We had a quick chat about it a few weeks ago. So I don't know how that will be received by people. It's actually a resurrection of a podcast that I did create after lockdown. So it was one thing, and I've kind of announced this as season 2. So we'll see how it goes. But it's very exciting to get back out there and be recording and have a purpose for that recording as well. And as you say, it is giving people that opportunity to learn fast, and succeed in whatever that looks like as well, without any pressure, and in a very supportive community. So from me and all the other podcasters and everyone else taking part in NaPodPoMo, I am sure, Jennifer, just huge thank you. Because, 16 years of putting something together, that's a lot. And, you really have led the way for this to become an event and an annual thing around the world, which is pretty significant, yeah.
Well, I want to encourage people to create challenges, though, because I created this because I heard about NaNoWriMo and I heard about NaBlowPoMo and I heard about NaVlowPoMo for the vloggers. And I was like, oh, November's about challenges. Okay, cool. Let me go find the podcasting one and join. And there wasn't one. And I was stunned that there wasn't one. And so 3 days before November 1st in 2007, I was like, well, I'm going to make it. And here we are all these years later. So think about creating a challenge for yourself in whatever it is that you like to do. And there may be existing challenges. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. I recommend doing it in November. It seems like we as human beings are primed to push and challenge ourselves to have a sense of accomplishment before the year is out. And I think it's a great thing to do. So whatever that thing is for you, create it, share it, do it year after year. Have fun.
That's amazing. I mean, thinking about it, Noisevember is actually the one that I had joined a couple of years ago, and I've never managed it. So Noisevember is one of these where you get a prompt, which is usually a single word, and you can do anything with that around making a sound or some audio. Some people will go and capture specifically the thing that is the prompt. However, if the prompt is something like window, you might open or shut the window, or you might be more creative about that and create something with synthesizers or, noisemakers to represent window in Noisevember. So you're right. November is definitely the month for these things to happen, which is, fairly interesting, very interesting. Now, I know you're really into the Web3 stuff with podcasting. Is there a Web3 element to this year's NaPodPoMo?
There is. In 2021, I wanted to see if I could take NaPodPoMo to the blockchain. And again, I didn't know if anybody was going to join me or if anybody was going to be interested or whether it would have any legs, but that was my experiment. So I took NaPodPoMo, I created a community on Hive, which is a blockchain, social media, blockchain-based social media, and I created one using the app Ariel, or the DApp Ariel, and just thought, let me just put the podcast there. And so I did. And for the very first time ever, I actually earned a reward for my episodes. I want to say it wound up being like 100 Hive, which that I split between me and the curator, so about 50 Hive. And Hive is a token on that blockchain that value goes up and down, whatever. But I had never earned anything on NaPodPoMo. This is a passion project. This is something that is very community driven, and it caused me to kind of have a moment of pause to go, this is the same thing that I've been doing year after year after year. But if I change my destination from just traditional web and also not instead of, but also add the blockchain as another destination for my content, I could earn, because people who like what you create will let you know if they do by upvoting or giving you value. And it was kind of like, huh. So last year was year 2, and we went big. We collaborated with a lot of the Web3 communities. And then this year is year 3, and we're actually have like a daily community that's not on the blockchain. It's just a Zoom meeting that everybody gets together, and we, for 1 hour every day at 9 a.m. Eastern, we answer questions about NaPodPoMo, and I'm there live to answer any questions. And that's by Alessandra White and Creative Work Hour. We've collaborated with them in order to bring this to life. We also did a live workshop, 3-hour workshop, last weekend, which is anyone can watch. It's recorded. It's available for them. Talking about NaPodPoMo and really giving the support. And that was something that I had never done before. I'd never done an intro to NaPodPoMo, and I see now that, boy, that should have been happening a long time ago. Sometimes you need people from outside of yourself to come and go, hey, you got this amazing thing. You know, what's kind of missing is this thing of this intro, and we would love to support you in that and work with you to bring that to life. And I worked with Alessandra, with Shadows, with Weiling, with Greg. We were the organizational team that built that. But then we had people who showed up and they stayed throughout this presentation. So I would say if you're thinking of building something for yourself, you're going it alone, right? It's kind of like a little bit of a lonely slog, but keep at it if it's something that's really important to you, and open yourself up to allowing other people to add value to this beautiful thing that you've created that is your baby, because it only gets bigger and better when you allow other people in. And that's been my experience this year, is really allowing other people to take an active role in it so that it can go beyond me, which is, of course, a wonderful thing.
Incredible. As you say, collaborating with other people is sometimes like the key element to really seeing it rocket. And the fact that, you know, you've been doing it for 16 years and there's still lessons and there's still new stuff, it's still new each year, is just incredible. Have you got any idea of the number of people that take part in the challenge? I guess from the feed, you can kind of tell.
You can kind of tell. NaPodPoMo is not a you're not going to get thousands of people participating in this challenge in any given year. Thousands of people have come through it over the last 16 years, but this is a deep commitment. So you're not going to get a lot of people who do it, but the people who do it, they're committed. And so that's one of the things. I mean, one of our supporters this year is Blueberry Podcast Hosting. And when I was talking to them, because they're helping me do a crazy experiment that I'm a little nervous about because I've never done it before. So even me, someone who's been podcasting for as long as I have, there's things I've never done before in podcasting because podcasting is evolving. So I partnered with them to help me make that happen, because they offer that service as a podcast hosting company. And I'm like, I'm going with you. And plus I've worked with them for a really long time and I trust them implicitly. So I was talking to them about NaPodPoMo, and I said, look, you're not going to get thousands of people who are part of this. So if you're expecting with your support that thousands of people are going to join, this is not that challenge. But you are going to get people who are going to go deep, and you're going to have them for a long period of time. And they're like, no, this is something for the community. And they're like, we're all about that. And I said, yeah, that's the kind of the way I look at it. So if I think about how many people are in this challenge right now, it's under 50. It is under 50 podcasters that are in this challenge, but this is day one. Typically what happens is, as people hear about it and learn about it and know that they can participate at any time, they don't have to, like, it's not like as if you're not here today, you know, too bad, so sad, you missed out. No, come in at any time. Come in on November 30th and do all 30. Now you will have missed all the fun of the community, but you would still have successfully accomplished the challenge. So I think that it always ramps up the deeper that we get into it. And we will have some people who will fall off just because life gets in the way. So it kind of balances out.
So if anyone's been listening and wants to find out more about NaPodPoMo, wants to, you know, make sure that their RSS feed is joining the mega feed and all that good stuff, where can they go, Jennifer, to find out that information?
You can go to napodpomo.org. That's napodpomo.org. And at the top, it gives you the little bit of a history. It's just a basic website. It's nothing fancy. I've had it for a long time. But if you go to the top, that's where the links are. So if you want to go to the Facebook group and see the conversations there, if you want to sign up to be part of the daily support sessions, there's a link to take you there. There's the mega feed is there, like all the stuff is there. But I just dropped the link here for you all to share for the NaPodPoMo mega feed. But yeah, consider joining this. It's simple, right? I'll tell you that I'm doing 3 podcasts this year for NaPodPoMo, and 2 of them are using Spaces. Why? Because it's easy. It's a low lift. I can use my phone. It doesn't matter where I'm at. There's no excuse for me not to do it. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Jennifer, I didn't know Spaces was a podcast. Well, it's not in and of itself, but when you combo it with Zealous, friend of the show, right? Supporter of the show, sponsor of the show, then Zealous actually allows you to create channels, which is like a show, and they create your RSS feed for you. And that's why 2 of my 3 shows are using Zealous. Now, one of the shows, that's where it is. It goes there. We get the RSS feed. It goes into the mega feed. The other show that I'm doing with Shane Mata and crypto content creators is going to go to Web3. It's going to Ariel. automatically. It goes from Spaces to Zealous to Ariel, and we will be potentially earning from these episodes. Will, how much? I don't know. It depends on if people like what we have to say.
Wow, 3, that's like 90 in 30 days, 90 episodes. Crazy times.
I've done it
once
before, but it hasn't been repeated yet. So crossing my fingers.
Go, Jennifer. We're all rooting for you. We're behind you. Now, I know as well, you've started up a community here on X for NaPodPoMo because I'm in it. And Madalyn, I bring you in here because that's, the community stuff and the collaboration. That is what you're all about over here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jennifer, what you're doing is just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So just congrats on all your hard work with all of this. And I have a quick question for you. So if somebody's listening to this going, well, I'm not really a podcaster, but this sounds interesting. I mean, you don't have to already be an established podcaster, right? Like you were mentioning Spaces. Somebody could just utilize Spaces to do this. Like, what do you say to somebody that's like, I'm not a true podcaster, but I would like to do something like this?
Don't let anybody tell you you're not a true podcaster, folks. Yes, there are ways, like if you don't have the big giant mic and the big amazing room and all the things, don't feel like you're not a podcaster. If you have a smartphone, you have your production studio in your pocket, you're a podcaster. Now, are there things that you can do to improve your quality of your audio? Absolutely. Madalyn mentioned the walk-in closet. That is the built-in sound booth in your home that you don't have to pay a dime for. It's already ready for you to go. And since it's audio, no one has to see that you're in your closet, but they will hear the audio quality. If you have an iPhone, can you put your iPhone in isolation mode to improve the quality of your voice? Absolutely, you can. How much does that cost you? Nothing. You've already bought the phone. So I would say remove all this burden that you're carrying, thinking that you can't be a podcaster until you have all of these things. If you've got a smartphone, you're good to go. And maybe even then you could do it on the computer if you don't have a smartphone. There's all kinds of ways you could do it. You could use Squadcast, or you could use any number of things. Zencaster. I mean, there's any number of tools. YouTube, like you name it. So embrace the fact that you are a podcaster. And even if you've never podcasted before, that you're going to become one. And if you need permission from someone, I want you to go look in the mirror and say, you're a podcaster, and then go forth. Spaces is a great free tool. Anchor.fm is a great free tool. Substack is a great tool. YouTube is a great tool. Remove the technical gear barrier to entry and speak your mission and your message. You have one. We all do. We probably have more than one, but we do have at least one. And I invite you during the challenge like this to make what you're going to talk about be simple and easy, something that you love, something that you could talk about for hours on end, and break that up into 30 episodes. You're going to want to go short because this is a lot to take in. So 5-10 minutes, maybe even 1 to 3 minutes. Don't feel like you have to do 30 minutes or longer. You can if you want to, but just short, sweet, to the point. No time to cry over spilt milk. If you have a very terrible episode and you're like, well, that just was not great, you have no time to cry over spilt milk. Guess what? You have another episode for tomorrow. And if you get behind, don't lose heart. Everyone gets behind. I get behind. And by the way, I'm the founder of this, and even I have not finished every single challenge every single year because life gets in the way. But I still learn. There's so much learning that happens during a challenge like this, and not just learning of your own, but learning from listening to others, from hearing from others, and getting a sense of what they're doing. You'll be inspired. You'll learn. You'll inspire others. And there's also great satisfaction and joy, like real joy, in speaking your mission and message just for yourself. Like sometimes we think, oh, I have to do this for my business. I have to do this for work. I have to do this for my brand. Not to say that it couldn't be those things, but sometimes you just want to say something for you. Do it for yourself.
Awesome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And yeah, at minimum, you're surrounded by other like-minded people. You're part of a community, and that's so important. I love this. Thank you for joining us today and sharing all of this.
Thank you so much for asking me. When you asked me to join you on November 1, I was like, I can think of no better way to launch this 16th year of NaPodPoMo. So thank you both.
I love our All Things Audio community as well, because Jennifer has stepped in several times as co-host right here on All Things Audio, right? So it's really nice to be able to support you back with the project that you work on each year as well. Before we move on, we also have to mention our sponsor, Zealous, the awesome platform Zealous, which is our AI assistant that lets you take your recorded content, just like Spaces and your podcast, and easily repurpose them. We've been using the platform now for a few months to create audiograms from this weekly space and sending them out as posts right here on X. And actually, they've been doing pretty well, haven't they, Madalyn?
Yeah, it's a great tool. I really love using it. We really love that they're sponsoring the show each week. So if you haven't checked them out before, you definitely want to go and see what it's all about, see all the cool features. There's a free trial. That's what Suze and I did. We started off doing a free trial and we both fell in love with this tool. We have a direct link to it. You can go to our website, which is actually allthingsaudiopodcast.com, and just put /zealous on the end, and that'll get you right over to it. And if you have any questions, just hit us up, DM us. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have about it. But it is a very, very cool tool.
Well, we do actually have some social audio news, believe it or not, Madalyn, don't we?
We do have some social audio news. And Jennifer, if you're able to stay, in case you want to chime in on any of this, we would love to hear your thoughts.
I'm here.
Awesome. So, yes, we're going to share a couple of interesting new things that have come up in the past few weeks here, especially in the last week. This audio calling that's now live here on the X platform. Suze, have you tried this yet? Where we can actually, it's like FaceTime, or it's like on Messenger, where you can do a video call or an audio call directly to somebody in your DMs.
So I haven't tried this yet because I'm not entirely sure. Am I missing something? Does this do something magical that all of those apps that you just mentioned don't do?
No.
If I'm going to do a video call, then I'm probably going to use FaceTime.
Right.
Or if I'm going to call someone over the internet, I'm probably going to use WhatsApp. Why would I use it on X?
I know. It is part of Elon's grand plan to make this the everything app so that you don't utilize the other apps you normally use for these other things, just to keep you here. But if you're used to doing this type of thing on WhatsApp or Messenger or FaceTime, then yeah, I think it's a hard ask to get people to stop doing it that way in favor of doing it here. I think it's just easiest if you're already on this platform, you're using it, and it's like, oh, by the way, I could just call this person directly through here in the DMs. Well, okay, so you don't have to leave this and go open up another app. But we're all conditioned. Like, I know they want to make this a replacement for YouTube. I like YouTube. I'm not going to stop going to YouTube. All these new features are great and all, but I think it's going to be really hard to get people to stop doing things the way they're used to doing. So I don't know if this new audio and video calls are going to even be something people really want to do. And one of the things we learned about this since it was launched is that you have to be a premium subscriber with the blue check mark to initiate the calls. But if you don't have the blue check mark, somebody could call you. So if I have the blue check mark, you don't, I'm verified, you're not, I can initiate a video or audio call to you. You cannot initiate one. You could just pick up one from me if I try calling you. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work.
No, neither do I. I mean, there's a bit of a sense of not so much reinventing the wheel as shoving all the wheels into one car, maybe. I don't know if that even works as an analogy. I'm not sure. I didn't think it through. But, it just feels like bringing all the different elements of things that we use in other apps over here with the sole aim of ensuring that we never leave the X platform, so that there are lots of eyeballs on the X platform so they can sell advertising again at a decent rate in order to make some money. I don't know. I'm just not entirely sure that I'm convinced, considering that I am basically the product, it feels like, really, because they will literally earn off of my activity on the app. And I just don't see why I would use video or audio calls here. X was Twitter, was a social media microblogging platform. Thank you very much. I understood what that was, and I was quite happy to do that and to use this platform for that purpose. But when it comes to having a phone call or video call, there are plenty of other ways that I would do that. and I wouldn't think of X first. And in the same way, watching video long form, I would go to YouTube exactly the same as you. So it's very interesting to see them doing it. I believe, is it still only iOS that it's available on at the moment, or?
I believe right now it's just iOS. Another thing that's interesting, and I put all these posts into the nest for everybody to see. Last week, right after this feature came out, it was reported that there were some bugs. And one of the bugs that came about was that some people said the app crashed if you got one of these calls while you were in a space. And that made me quite nervous because I'm thinking, because first of all, just for everybody to know, this feature is defaulted to be on. You don't turn it's already if you're verified, well actually even if you're not verified, anybody that follows you is defaulted for your followers and people in your address book on your phone that are on this platform. So they can call you starting now. So what if you're in a space and you don't realize this new feature is defaulted on? So that was an issue that was reported. They claim they fixed this bug. It still makes me nervous, but you can go into your privacy settings and adjust it. There was a post in the nest a few back from Doge Designer, and it shows you how to make these adjustments. You go into your settings, into privacy and safety. From there, you go to direct messages and you'll see enable audio and video calling. But another thing I noticed, at first that was the only way to do it, but now they've made it so that I don't know if only the verified users, premium subscribers have this, but you can just tap on your DMs. I'm going to do it right now on mobile. When I'm in the DMs on mobile, at the top right, there's a little gear icon. You tap on it, and they actually have it in there now. So you scroll a little bit, it'll say, allow audio and video calls from, you'll see it's already checked off. People in your address book, people you follow. There's another one you can check off that says verified users, and you can uncheck these or maybe just pick one. So I definitely recommend everybody should check this and see how you have it set, but it is defaulted on. And I just hope this doesn't crash if I'm in the middle of a space because somebody's trying to do one of these calls to me. I think the proper way to do this would be just like many times we text somebody, say, hey, are you free? I'd like to chat with you. And sometimes we just text them first because you want to make sure you're not bothering them. I would like for somebody to give me a heads up first, not just I don't know how I'm going to feel if all of a sudden people are just randomly trying to call me through the DMs with this. I'm very tempted to just turn the whole thing off.
It would be cool if they had a do not disturb aspect to this.
Yes. Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, that would definitely be good, wouldn't it? I think from my point of view, I'm not interested in it as a usable feature, as I've already mentioned, but I am interested in how it impacts on spaces, whether that be busting into someone's space and then hanging it or, killing it completely, or whether or not this form of audio, this form of social audio in which we talk with each other over the phone, would you believe it, has precedent and more priority for them over improving or maintaining these social audio spaces. So that's what I'm interested in it for. I want to know, how does it impact the other audio stuff on the platform? And Jennifer, you're totally right. Like a do not disturb feature where, you're live doing this, with a space full of lots of people, you don't want anything to interrupt that. So you should be able to have that ownership over what you're doing, over your device, over your time on the platform, and have a do not disturb. It seems like a no-brainer.
Let me jump in here and say that I actually kind of am curious about this Twitter calling, and let me jump in why. Typically, if we want to talk to someone, like we may be originating the conversation in the DMs, and then we'll be like, let's jump on a call. Then it's like, because we're global. Oh, do you have Telegram? Do you have Signal? Should we do a Zoom? Should we do FaceTime? It's like, no, I don't have that. Oh, I have that. So it becomes all of that stuff of trying to find what works with the different people within the DM that you want to have a chat with. And I think where I think it could be helpful is because we're already on Twitter, and that is a unifying thing that all of us have. It might work in that way. I don't know. I haven't personally used it, but I'm hearing you all talk about it, and I can definitely see the pain points to it. But I also want to kind of maybe have a silver lining that it could actually make things easier, maybe, but not if it's buggy.
It is pretty buggy. I did try it last week. It became available. I want to say it was either last Wednesday or Thursday, but after my formerly Twitter Smarter, my X Smarter, or Smarter X, space last week, me and one of my friends jumped on one to test it because we wanted to try it. And it wasn't terribly exciting in that we did the audio and well, first it was buggy and we couldn't, we were trying to call each other and neither one could see that we were calling each other. So that was no good. Once we finally connected, we did the audio first. It was okay. We did the video very much like FaceTime, and the video quality was not that great. It was okay, but not great. But I'm looking at this going, why would I do this here? Just going back to what I said before, why would I do this here instead of the other platforms I normally would do this on? So I don't know. I just don't know if it's something people are going to widely adopt.
I can see that though, Jennifer. You've actually got my brain working, which is no mean feat right now, I tell you. But if you're sending out a text in a post, that goes to everyone, right? So all your as many followers as they allow eyeballs on it. Then perhaps you take that replies whatever into maybe a group DM, which is a more select group of people, a more intimate group of people, away from that public feed. And that might turn into these voice DMs and the voice notes and that kind of thing, and into a conversation. And then niching down beyond that, you might want to have a one-on-one conversation with someone, which you would take as a call, either as a video or an audio call, all of which going right from that initial text post all the way through, almost funneling down from talking to loads of people to talking to just that person, staying on the platform. I kind of can see that journey now that you've put it in that way. So that is it's interesting to see, of course, the other way out from perhaps that little intimate DM is to do a space like this and have that group conversation. I guess there's loads of different ways of using it. I'm just intrigued as to whether or not that's their kind of idea with it or where it might head.
It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Is it going to be something people are going to use?
One thing Twitter is never boring.
Right?
That's true right now, yeah. Madalyn, you found some WhatsApp news.
I did. So this one is interesting. I came across. It says that they're rolling out the view once option for voice notes, and it's available for some people that are beta testers. I'm not really using WhatsApp all that much anymore, but voice notes, that I always find that appealing. I like when we have the ability to do something like that. So you use WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, I use WhatsApp a lot.
Have you noticed this?
I haven't noticed kind of disappearing. I'm assuming this is like a disappearing message as opposed to one that's going to hang around that I can go back and replay. And no, I haven't noticed it as yet, although potentially it's something I might be able to turn on in settings, but I didn't know it was there. So, yeah, interesting. Disappearing messages just always reminds me of Snapchat. This kind of feature always reminds me of Snapchat, which always, to me, leads to the thoughts that it could very easily be kind of misused. Equally, anything with it, we've spoken about this before, in that anything that's within that kind of hidden private message voice note type style that doesn't have any form of transcript, you don't know what you're about to listen to when you listen to it. I guess the difference with this is that if it disappears and it is something that is, I don't know, troubling or needed, or, even a bit of useful information, you can't then go back and hear it again, which makes it kind of redundant.
Interesting. Okay. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about it either. Okay, you see it once and it disappears. And then you found some news on Stationhead. I'm not even familiar with that one.
Yeah, so we've spoken about this one probably, maybe even a year ago. This was this is the app that has been around prior to Green Room, prior to Spotify Live, where people are able to have their own kind of radio show style events. And this bit of news caught my eye in digital musical news this week, that they've actually joined forces with 7 Digital, and their idea now is to be able to hold things like listening parties with big artists, and having sort of specific downloads during these release parties, and to basically make a big buzz about musicians and music through this social audio platform. Now, what does that sound like, Madalyn? It sounds like what Spotify should have done.
Right, exactly. Something we had talked about quite a bit here over the last few years. Yeah, very interesting. Stationhead, it must have been a long time ago we talked about it because it's just not really ringing a bell. But interesting. I'm so glad you brought this up because I just wasn't even aware of what they were doing. So very interesting.
Yeah, it's been quite a long-term one. I've got it as a mobile app here. It was set up by a guy called Ryan Starr. He's the CEO. It actually says in this article here, we've become a top choice for artists and labels worldwide when it comes to global album releases and tour announcements. Our platform empowers them to activate their fan communities, boost revenue streams, and steer the trajectory of their marketing efforts, which is all the good stuff that we really felt like Spotify could have done. Had they worked with major labels and, they could have had album releases on there. We could have had, these kind of listening parties with lots of people in the audience who could then do like Q&A with the artist, all that sort of thing. And it just never even really left the ground, it feels like. Poor old Spotify Live. But I think what it's done in folding and being no more is allowed Stationhead to go, right, this is it now. We're hitting the ground running. We were here before Spotify. We're still here now. And we're going to show them how they should have done it.
Right.
And they're going to be sorry.
It'll be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see how they progress. But yeah, I think Spotify had such a great opportunity and they blew it. Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.